Hi, thank you, Ben. We're second addition to the agenda. I want to introduce Judith Whitmore, who's our state coordinator. Judith? Okay, we believe in the rule of law, not the rule of whim or the rule of man. Here's a rule book. Don't be bashful. Raise your hand if this is the first time you're seeing the New York State Constitution. Okay, don't feel bad. This happens. I get around the country a lot, in this state especially. It's the case everywhere. People are not familiar with their state constitutions. It's important that you become familiar with it because it governs the behavior of every single appointed and elected official in the state, far more so than does the federal Constitution, which hardly ever comes into play in the day-to-day administration of the state. As long as what the legislature does and what the governor does is not repugnant to the U.S. Constitution, and as long as no provision of the state Constitution conflicts with the U.S. Constitution, then this is the supreme law of this state. There are two provisions in here that were recently violated, or that have been violated, by the state. The one we're here to talk about tonight is the provision in Article 3. Article 3, remember, no word finds its way in or out of your state constitution except by a vote of the majority of the people. We put the words in here. We set the government up. We created the legislature and the executive and the judiciary. In setting up the legislature, we said to them, because we didn't want anything, we wanted to make it more difficult for them to slide things by us, we said in here, every bill must be on the desk of every legislator for at least 3 days before final passage. This bill that we are here, unless there's a message of necessity by the governor, which we'll talk about in a minute. This bill was introduced to the Senate. They got it at 10 minutes to 11 on the night of the 14th of January. And by the next afternoon, well, they passed it that night, seeing it for 20 minutes, but by the next afternoon, the Assembly passed it, and it was on the desk and the governor signed it. So in 15 hours, this legislators got the bill, approved it, and the governor signed it. This is the language that we the people, this Constitution is the rule book. It is above everything that happens down in Albany. They cannot violate any provision of this rule book. Now, who are the enforcers? Come on, speak up.
We are.
Okay, it's up to us to hold them accountable. The government was never given the job of defending and abiding by the Constitution. Never. They take an oath, but they were really never given the job. Many of us have taken oaths. The same is true of the U.S. Constitution. We're the enforcers. This is a set of rules, a set of principles that govern the government. It's all that stands between us and total tyranny and despotism. These are the rules. They must follow them. We are blessed in this country with this principle of popular sovereignty. Sovereignty rests with the people. That cannot be said by about the people in any other country on the globe. Everywhere else, sovereignty rests with a parliament, a dictator, a king, or somebody, but not the people. That's the blessing of America. Popular sovereignty. But we have to know what these rules are. Get a copy, download a copy of the state constitution. Article 3, the legislative article, section 14. No bill shall be passed or become a law unless it shall have been printed and upon the desks of the members in its final form at least 3 calendar days prior to its final passage, unless the governor or the acting governor shall have certified under his or her hand and the seal of the state the facts which in his or her opinion necessitate an immediate vote thereon. He said in his message of necessity, the SAFE Act, this bill, will immediately ban the ownership of assault weapons and magazines, large capacity magazines, over 10 rounds. Not true. I have a semi-automatic with a pistol grip. Under this law, it's now called an assault weapon, and I have to register it between April 15th this year and April 15th next year. It does not take effect immediately. Same thing with the large capacity magazines. I can keep the magazine. We can keep these large capacity magazines. But we have a year to dispose of them or get rid of them. So the bill did not take effect immediately. There was no need for speed. The history of the Constitution, that article, goes back to 1894. And as you check what the delegates at a constitutional convention have said in 1894, 1950, 1938, the one that gave us the current language, what they said was, if there is a need for speed, meaning the legislature is about to adjourn, it's the end of the year, and there's a budget bill or something that has to be passed, or, it says, or if we're under attack, or if there's a disaster, natural or man-made. In other words, if there's a need for speed for those reasons, then a message of necessity can be used by, and the legislature can then proceed to pass the bill in less than 3 days. None of those things were present. This governor, he's not alone. Prior governors have been doing the same thing, using the message of necessity for bills that are controversial, where they want to suspend public debate. They don't want to hear from the public. Tough. But this is what they do. They issue a message of necessity, and the bill sails through. Suspending public debate. It's wrong. We need to bring a lawsuit. I was at that rally on the 19th. I was asked to speak. And I said to them, we need to go to court. Ask the court to strike it down unless the governor can justify the emergency. The crowd said yes. And I said it to the crowd, if you'd like to be a plaintiff in this case with me, no cost, text me. Just say, I'm in. 800 texts arrived. And we were in Syracuse the other night. Another 100 plaintiffs joined the case. Last night, we gave birth to a new website. Remember this. It's on one of these sheets that you have in front of you. We, the people of NY. NY is not spelled out. It's just NY. New York is not spelled out. We, the people of NY.org. And on this sheet of paper with that photograph in the top, that's a photograph of the rally on the 19th. What we tried to do here is just copy the home page of that new website. And if you read it and what's on the back, we hope you'll go to the website, We the People of NY. We have 2 initiatives, and we need everybody to help us out. This is a numbers game. The more people involved in this lawsuit and the more people involved in the petition that's earmarked for the legislature, the better. So we've just launched this last night, and all day long today, people are doing what we've asked them to do to become plaintiffs in this case. There will be at least 1,000 named plaintiffs in this case. And it'll be served, hopefully, by the 15th. So we hope you'll go home, go to the website, follow the instructions. If you look on the back side of this page, you'll see What are two buttons on your website? They'll be colored green. One is join the website, join the lawsuit, and the other one is petition the legislature. So we're going to court. The governor and the legislature are defendants. We're asking the court, and the complaint is there on the website. Read it. Read the complaint. And then fill out this individual verification form. You have a copy of it. Your signature needs to be notarized. That will be inserted along with 1,000 others or more at the back of the lawsuit when it gets filed. It says you've read the complaint and you're a plaintiff. That's all you have to do. There's another, we've hired some programmers, they've completed their work. There's another form that you need to enter some data in, which that data will be automatically transferred. So we don't have to type it in. Automatically transferred into the body of the complaint. Never has there been 1,000 without attorneys. It's not a class action lawsuit. Each of us is representing ourselves, and we're taking them to court. We want the governor to justify this emergency. There was no emergency. This bill does nothing about what happened in Newtown. The tragic events of Newtown. People are on antidepressants that induce violence and suicides, psychotropic drugs and so forth. They're tragic events. This bill allows current owners to keep their assault weapons and their large capacity magazines. This bill does nothing to stop what happened in Newtown, other than ban anyone from going out and buying more. But there's an estimated 1 million assault weapons in this state alone. And of course, many, many more large capacity ammunition feeding devices. So we ask you to go to the website, follow the instructions. The other action is a petition for the every single legislator will be served the petition. And we hope there will be thousands of signers. The other provision of the New York State Constitution, this is going to surprise you. I'm going to read it. Quote, this is your Constitution. They are required to follow it. But we're the enforcers. If we don't enforce it, it isn't going to happen. The defense and protection of the state and the United States is the obligation of all persons. Not men only, not 17 to 45. All persons. It is the obligation of all persons within the state. The defense of this state and the nation. The legislature shall, it's a mandate, no options, no discretion rather. The legislature shall provide for the discharge of our obligation. How? And for the maintenance and regulation of an organized militia. An organized militia. What does that mean? Switzerland comes to mind. In Switzerland, it is the law. Every male and female, when they become of age, they are required to be trained on the use of firearms, and they are required to keep them at home with 50 rounds. They haven't been at war for over 500 years. This thing goes back nearly 800 years when they passed that. And Switzerland was our sister republic at the time our founders were meeting and coming up with our Constitution. They referred to it all the time. They saw the model there. So it is a requirement that we have a well-regulated, well-disciplined, well-maintained militia in this state. And of course, we shouldn't forget about the first 13 words of the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. A well-regulated militia being essential for the security of a free state. And therefore, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. How can you have well-regulated militia of the several states if the people aren't appropriately armed? A well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Let's not forget about the first 13 words. So the other half of the other project is a petition that's on the website. We hope you'll sign it. We're saying to every legislator, set up immediately, within 40 days, let us know that you're either going to follow these instructions or why not. Because the Constitution demands it. Set up an advisory commission and do everything necessary to follow these instructions. Strike down all contrary and opposing laws. Do everything necessary to come up with, to restore the well-regulated militia in the state of New York. So I thank you for your attention. I hope you'll go to the website and we the people of ny.org, follow the instructions, and join a lot of your fellow New Yorkers as we bring this action to strike down the SAFE Act. Yes?
What about the Pataki law that caused the assault rifle ban to come back into New York even though it was closed out on a federal level? Can that also be repealed? That only 10-round magazines, unless they're pre-banned. That was an illegal law also.
Let's take a look at it. I mean, I've looked at this. I got a phone call early in the morning on the 15th of December, of January. Joanne Wilder from Syracuse. She screamed at me. They rammed and crammed it through. So, Joanne, what are you talking about? And she told me about the bill. I'm not a lawyer, but if you put my name in LexisNexis, you'll see at least 175 reported decisions in cases that I have brought against public officials. I've twice defeated this governor's father for violating the Constitution. He violated the Constitution by using public funds to sway the results of elections. We beat the comptroller. We've been successful against the mayor for violating his city charter. We struck down state law and state regulations. We've prevailed in actions against towns and counties and school districts. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm comfortable. I can read and comprehend. I know how to do legal research. You'll see that. Hopefully you'll see that in the complaint that you're going to read. Yes, sir.
It's also in the Civil Rights section of the New York State Constitution.
It is. In Article 2, Section 4 of the Civil Rights Law.
It says cannot.
It says, it has, very good. The same language as the Second Amendment, except the Second Amendment says shall not. This says cannot. Our state constitution says that a well-regulated militia is essential to the security of the free state, and the right to keep and bear arms cannot be infringed. That's the way your state constitution reads. And that's a stronger statement than shall. So thank you.
If you have any more questions for Bob, maybe you can go with